In a land far, far away lived Eneni and her family. Her father was a farmer while her mother made hand-weaved clothing. Eneni helped around the house as she was the only child of her parents. One sunny afternoon, Eneni went to go fetch water from the river. The river was not too far from her home, so it didn't take much time to get there. The way to the river was surprisingly quiet and lonely on this particular day. As Eneni got to the river and was filling her clay pot with water, something shiny caught her eye by the side of the river. Curious, Eneni looked closer and saw a beautiful calabash floating near the edge of the river. It was unlike any calabash she had ever seen before. The calabash was small and perfectly round, with golden patterns that shimmered in the sunlight. Eneni looked round to see if the owner of the calabash was around, probably resting under a tree, but found no one, so she gently picked it up and examined it. Who left such a pretty calabash by the river? She wondered aloud. The riverbank was quiet except for the sound of birds chirping in the trees. As Eneni held the calabash, she noticed that it felt warm in her hands. She opened the lid, expecting to see water or perhaps some fruits inside. But to her surprise, the calabash was empty. Just as she was about to put it down, she heard a soft voice coming from the calabash. "Thank you for finding me, Eneni," the voice said. Eneni gasped and nearly dropped the calabash in shock. She looked around again, thinking someone was playing a trick on her. But there was no one else at the river. Who are you?" Eneni stammered, her heart racing. "I am the spirit of this magic calabash," the voice replied gently. "I have been waiting for someone with a kind heart to find me. Now that you have, I can help you with anything you need." Eneni couldn't believe her ears. "A magic calabash," she whispered, amazed. "Is this real?" The calabash glowed softly in her hands. "Yes, Eneni. I am here to help you. But remember, with great power comes great responsibility. You must use my magic wisely." Eneni thought for a moment. She didn't want to be greedy, but she knew her family could use some help. "Can you make my family's farm grow more crops? We work so hard, but the soil doesn't yield as much as we would want," she asked. The calabash hummed in agreement. "Take me to your farm, and I will help." Excited, Eneni ran home as fast as her legs could carry her, holding the magic calabash close to her chest. When she reached the farm, she carefully placed the calabash on the ground and asked it to make the crops grow strong and healthy. To her amazement, the earth beneath the calabash began to move. The soil turned rich and dark, and within moments, green shoots sprang up from the ground. The crops grew taller and fuller right before her eyes, and soon the entire farm was covered in healthy plants. Eneni's family was overjoyed when they saw the farm. "How did this happen?" her father, Chokudi, asked, bewildered. Eneni smiled and showed them the magic calabash. "I found this by the river. It's a magic calabash, and it's helped our farm grow." Her mother, Adama, knelt down and touched the calabash with awe. "Eneni, you have been blessed by the gods. But remember, we must not let greed take over our hearts and use the power of the calabash wisely." Eneni nodded, remembering the calabash's warning. But deep down, she wondered what other secrets the magic calabash held. She couldn't help but feel curious about what else it could do and where this journey might take her. With the magic calabash by her side, Eneni knew her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. The days that followed were the happiest Eneni could remember. The farm flourished, and soon there was more food than her family could eat. They shared the extra yams, corn, and vegetables with their neighbors, who marveled at the sudden abundance. "Chokudi, your farm has never looked so good," said their neighbor, Mama Oji, as she accepted a basket of yams. "What's your secret?" Chokudi smiled but kept silent, for Eneni had told her parents about the magic calabash's warning to use its power wisely. They decided not to tell anyone about the calabash, fearing that others might misuse its magic. But Eneni's curiosity about the calabash grew stronger each day. She wondered what else it could do. One evening, after her chores were done, she took the calabash to a quiet spot by the river. The sun was setting, and the sky was painted with shades of orange and pink. Eneni sat down and gently opened the calabash. "Spirit of the calabash," Eneni whispered, "can you tell me about the magic you hold? What other things can you do?" The calabash glowed faintly, and the spirit's voice spoke softly. "My magic is vast, Eneni. I can grant wishes, bring rain to dry lands, and even show you places far beyond this village. But remember, each time you use my magic, there is a cost. You must be careful not to overuse it." Eneni listened carefully. She thought about all the wonderful things she could do with the calabash's power. But she also remembered her parents' words about greed. She didn't want to cause harm by using the magic for selfish reasons. Then, an idea came to her. "Can you show me the world beyond Umuchi?" she asked, her eyes wide with excitement. Eneni had always been curious about what lay beyond the hills that surrounded her village. She had heard stories of distant lands, but she had never seen them herself. The calabash hummed in agreement. "Close your eyes, Eneni, and hold me tight." Eneni did as she was told, and suddenly, she felt a warm breeze swirl around her. When she opened her eyes, she found herself standing on a high hill overlooking a vast, unfamiliar landscape. The village of Umuchi was nowhere in sight. She saw a dense forest stretching as far as the eye could see, with tall trees that seemed to touch the sky. In the distance, there were mountains with snow-capped peaks, something she had only heard about in stories. Eneni was amazed by the beauty and diversity of the world she was seeing. But she also felt a little scared. She was far from home, in a place she didn't know. "Where are we?" she asked, clutching the calabash tightly. "We are in a land far beyond your village, where few from Umuchi have ever traveled," the spirit replied. "These are lands of mystery and wonder, but also of danger." Eneni looked around, her heart pounding with excitement and a little fear. She wondered what adventures lay ahead. Back in the village, Eneni and her family kept flourishing and producing rich and sweet crops. There was something unique about their produce that made people want to buy from them instead of other sellers. This angered a lot of people, and they made it a point to show their anger. The village of Umuchi celebrated the festival of crops, and it was known to be one of the biggest celebrations in their village. Community members would gather farm products from every farmer in the village, and the women were tasked to cook it and share around during the occasion. Eneni was so excited because today was the festival of crops, and unlike last year, they had a lot to present. She made sure to lock the calabash in a safe box and before leaving with her family to attend the festival of crops. What Eneni and her family didn't know was that Mama Oji has been keeping a close eye on the family and their progress, and decided to wait for the perfect opportunity to search their house to know what type of juju they were using to gain the wealth they acquired in such a short time. While others were in the festival celebrating, Mama Oji sneaked into Eneni's family house. She searched tirelessly for anything out of the ordinary but didn't find. Just maybe luck indeed did shine on them. "Maybe the gods decided to bless them," she said. "I should get going before someone comes back and catch me," she said. On her way out, she saw an old rusty box that was locked and wondered why such an old box would be locked and what could possibly be inside. Curious to know what the contents of the box was, she broke open the box and was surprised to see a shiny calabash inside. She picked it up and spoke out, "Wow, I have never seen a calabash this beautiful in my life. What could it be used for?" Then the calabash replied, "I grant wishes." Mama Oji almost dropped the calabash out of fear, but regained herself and asked the calabash if it just spoke to her or if she was imagining things. The calabash replied her, "Yes, I spoke to you. I grant wishes as I am a magic calabash." Mama Oji was very happy because she has finally discovered the source of Eneni's family sudden prosperity. She knew stealing the calabash would be dangerous as they would definitely search for it, and she knew that if she suddenly gets rich, Eneni and her family would know she stole the magic calabash, so she decided to break it. She threw it down with so much force that the calabash broke to pieces. When Eneni and her family came back home and discovered what had happened, they were sad but couldn't do anything about the calabash because it was broken beyond fixing. As the days passed, Eneni began to notice that things were no longer the same. The once lush farm started to wither, the animals grew restless, and the land became quiet, as if it were holding its breath. They knew this was as a result of the calabash that was broken and its way of venting. On the other hand, Mama Oji fell so ill, and at the point of death she confessed to what she did to Eneni and her family and asked for forgiveness before she died.